Hi, everyone. Welcome to another Clean Machine Live. My name is Jeff Palmer. I'm the CEO and founder of Clean Machine. This video is for informational and educational purposes only and is not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease. If you have serious health conditions, please see your practitioner. All right, today's talk is a pretty serious one. Vitamin D3 and mortality. This is a new study that just came out October, just last month, 2022. This study titles Vitamin D Deficiency Increases Mortality Risk in the UK Biobank. Now, this was a huge study, 307,000 people involved in this study. Is one of the reasons why I like this. And the age groups were all across the board is 37 to 73-year-old. One of the restrictions of this study, though, I will point out, is that it was done only in white people. Now, there's a reason for that. So let's first back up before we jump into the study, because this brings me to a really important point, which is why should people supplement? Okay, so let's look at vitamin D3, which is actually technically not even a vitamin, it's a hormone. So it should be called hormone D3, but most people know it by the term vitamin D3. And there's a difference between vitamin D3 and D2. D3 is what's bioavailable in human beings. Vitamin D2 is actually made by plants for their own purposes. Okay, so how do most of humans and animals make vitamin D3? Well, human beings, just like every other herbivore on this planet, and even most of the carnivores, get their vitamin D from direct sunlight exposure. Okay, so how does that work? Well, sunlight hits our skin and converts a pigment, and it's through the help of melanin in our skin, helps to convert vitamin D3. Okay, so why melanin? All right, so this is where the skin color becomes a difference. So our body's adapted. If we were getting a whole lot of sunlight, we'd actually be overproducing vitamin D3. So our body said, wait a minute, let's block some of that sunlight or reflect some of that sunlight. So it started producing melanin. Melanin darkens the skin. The darker the skin, the more reflective those UV radiation signals are and don't produce vitamin D3. So as we go into the more northern climates, the earth is round, it has a curvature to it. So when the sun hits it directly, it goes in and penetrates, and we get a lot of sunlight. So those living on the equator where there's a lot of sun, like Africa and the Middle East and stuff, you see darker skinned people. And that is a response to all that direct sunlight coming right through. Now, when you have the curvature of the earth, though, the sunlight can somewhat reflect off that. So the further north you go, the more that sunlight is actually bouncing off our atmosphere at the wrong angle. And those people living in the north, let's say in the United States, at the 35th, 37th parallel, which is about North Carolina and above, you could be getting direct sunlight and almost no vitamin D3 activation at all. So if you're living in a northern climate, probably pretty important, and even more important for you to make sure you're getting sufficient vitamin D3. Because you won't be getting it from sunlight. Even if you're getting direct sunlight on your body, you're still not activating vitamin D3 at that point. If you are darker skinned, remember, Black people, Hispanic people need to take much more vitamin D3 because their body is adapted to reducing that amount of D3. This is why we see viral hospitalizations much higher, like with COVID, in people of darker color, darker skin color. Remember, dark skin is an adaptation for humans to vitamin D3 and sunlight. So the darker the skin, that is a natural adaptation to try to normalize or balance our vitamin D levels in the skin. It's funny that anybody should hold the color of his skin against another person because it's simply an adaptation process for sunlight and vitamin D3. That's all it is. It's melanin. It's produced by the body. All right. So we have different ranges for people and different requirements for people. If you're living in the north, you're going to need more vitamin D3. If you're darker skin color, actually, the darker the skin you are, the more vitamin D3. They've shown that people of Hispanic origin, like my own wife, need 2 to 3 times as much vitamin D3 or may need to get to homeostasis or normal levels. Those who are dark skinned, Black people, those may even need even more, up to 5 times as much vitamin D3 as someone who is very light skinned. So as we moved north, our skin got lighter. Moved out of Africa as a species, our skin got lighter. And that was because our body was trying to adapt to get more of that sunlight to actually penetrate our skin so that there would be more activation to make up on the difference. Because as we go north, that curvature means more of that sunlight is bouncing and you're not getting that vitamin D3. Okay, vitamin D3 is fat soluble. If you're carrying extra body fat, that fat is going to soak up your vitamin D3 and hold it, and that won't be active. It won't be available for immediate release into the bloodstream. So if you're carrying more body fat, you're going to need more vitamin D3. So people living in the north, people who are living in countries above the 37th parallel, northern areas, people that are lighter skin need less vitamin D3, darker skin need more vitamin D3. Those who are heavier or overweight will need more vitamin D3 as well. So these are important things to understand. The last thing is why practically 90% of people are not vitamin D sufficient or below the line. The reason being is we've moved inside. We're indoors. We're not getting direct sunlight on a daily basis. You need about 30 minutes of direct sunlight on your skin during peak hours, naked, completely naked, so that it can cover the whole body's skin. But we cover up. One, we wear clothing. Two, we go inside and we're not getting any sunlight at all. So because we've changed this quality, we need to change the body's ability to get that vitamin D3 from another source. Now, obviously, animals make their own vitamin D3, including human beings, from sunlight. But if we don't, we can get them from food. Carnivores get it by eating other animals, and herbivores can get it in some plants. So for us, we can get it from a vegan source like algae or different other sources. Okay, so let's jump back into the study and what it found. Okay, so first of all, I want to say happy World Vegan Day to all of you. November 1st was World Vegan Day, and November 2nd, coincidentally, is World Vitamin D3 Day. They put that together to try to raise awareness about the importance for vitamin D3, but this study that just came out really shows something pretty startling and pretty shocking. I'm not, because I've been following this and understand the effects of vitamin D3. So I've talked to you in other videos. Check out some of my other videos on vitamin D3 for D3 and hormone health, especially testosterone health. D3 and bone health and why it's important for that vitamin D3 and vitamin K2, which our own body can manufacture through bacteria, are very important. Important for immune health. Please check out my video if you haven't seen it already on the immune system. I'm going to touch base and show you some slides from that, but I'll show you how important vitamin D3 is to our immune system, especially protecting and boosting our immune system and protecting against viral infections. And I've even talked about vitamin D3 and its role in muscle health. Yes, muscle health. Just taking vitamin D3 alone has shown to increase muscle strength up to 16 to 19%. That's phenomenal. And that's just taking a vitamin D3 supplement. So D3 is a hormone that plays a variety of different functions, from brain health, heart health, bone health, hormone health, and even muscle health. across the board is a really important one. And that's why this study takes it even further, because this new study talks about increased risk of no health. That's right, mortality, actually dying. You increase the risk of death by having an insufficient or deficient status in your vitamin D3. So let's take a look at the study and see what it says. All right, I'm going to go ahead and put this study up there on the screen for everybody to see so you can follow along, and you can cut and paste the link in the section. Hey, Angela, good to see you. Thanks for coming on board, and thanks for your comment on the post too before. Let's see, let me put this in here, and I'll bring it up on the screen. Okay, so this is the study right here on the screen. That way you can copy it down and look it up yourself, because it's a pretty important study. Again, just came out last month, October 2022. If you're watching it right now, if you're watching it in the future, it's a very relevant new study. Vitamin D3 deficiency increases mortality risk in the UK Biobank. Remember, over 300,000 people were identified in this study. So huge study, makes it a very strong correlation between what we see. So they looked at two different levels, which is what they call vitamin D insufficient, which is not enough to be optimal to get you to vital states. And then a second one, even lower, which is deficiency. So you've got vitamin insufficiency and then vitamin deficiency. Deficiency is very low. Insufficiency is not low, is low, but not low enough to maybe cause some major harm. So the deficiency is what we're going to look at, but we're also going to look at insufficiency because it showed a risk as well. So I'll go ahead and put the actual results up on the screen in the comment section. This is a direct quote from the study. No ad-libbing from me, adding things or taking away things from it. Now I'll put this up on the screen. So it says odds of all-cause mortality. Now, all-cause mortality is a term that scientists use for all the different causes of premature death. Not natural death, not just dying of natural causes, but premature, dying from a disease state, most likely, or something that is going wrong inside the human body. So odds of all-cause mortality in the genetic analysis were estimated to increase by 25% for those who measured at 25OH is the active form of vitamin D3 in our bodies. So this is at 25 nanomoles per liter of blood compared to 50 nanomoliters of blood. So if you go to get your test done, if you're going to get a vitamin D3 test, getting your blood test done for vitamin D3, it's going to show this terminology in there. And basically, it's real simple. 50 nanomoles per liter is generally what most of the researchers are calling a healthy amount or sufficient amount. Anything below that to 25 is considered insufficient, and then anything below 25 is considered deficient. And it's going to vary from doctor to doctor, from researcher to researcher, but those are really broad and general terms that most are accepting. So when you got to deficient status, the odds of all-cause mortality increased to 36%. That's 1 out of every 3 people. Early premature death by a disease state directly linked to their vitamin D status. So insufficient, 1 out of every 4, 25%. All-cause mortality risk increase. And then when you get to deficient, you're talking 1 out of 3 people. That's horrible. There's no reason for this. Vitamin D is so inexpensive, and you can get vegan versions like it. I launched the only 100% pure organic vitamin D3 from algae. It's the only one on the market that's like this. It's called Veg D3. That's why I went with it. It's organic. It's 100% pure D3. You're not getting any vitamin D2 mixed in there like mushrooms or other sources can be. So this is really exciting that we have this information, but it's so important for us to get our vitamin D3 status looked at. If you're low, Do something about it. I don't care what you do, but get it up, because increasing your risk by 36% for something that's so small, a tiny little capsule once a day is all you need. There's no reason to put yourself at risk for that, for all causes of death, all cause mortality. So they found that there was an association for analysis for the D3 status and deficiency for cancer, for cardiovascular disease, for respiratory diseases. So why respiratory diseases? Okay, let's take a look at some of these banners that I'm going to pull up. Okay, this is let me take that comment down first. There we go. Okay, so what you're looking at on the screen is as the bar gets lower, this is the higher rates of flu. So you can see flu season, that's pretty much it, right? The winter months, January, February, March, these are the peak months when most people are getting flu and respiratory viruses, including COVID. COVID has a really strong propensity to do this. But why this curve? Why during the winter? Well, during the winter months, the Earth is changing its basically its direction toward the sun. It's tilting. We are tilted. So winter for everybody living in the northern hemisphere, the United States or Europe, you're going to get less direct sunlight. That less direct sunlight means you're getting less vitamin D3. Less vitamin D3 means more viral infections, more causes of death, more respiratory infections from viruses. So let's look at the actual D3 status measured in human beings. Oh, wow. Doesn't that look pretty similar? Flus, got that big curve, and there's your D3 status. That's right, the lowest amounts of vitamin D3 measured in human beings are in January through March, the winter months, and doesn't increase until the summer months where we're getting lots of sunshine. Do you see that direct correlation? This is vitamin D3 status in the human being going down. That makes our immune system less efficient at protecting against these infections. So I'm going to show you a slide of the bronchioles in the lung. Remember, COVID, like many viruses, the very first point of contact is the lungs. That's where we have a big immune system set up to try to fight those diseases. So let's take a look at what that looks like on a slide. So I'm going to describe this to you. Here it is, vitamin D3 and airway remodeling. So the big circle you're seeing there is a bronchiole. That's where the air comes into your lungs. And on the left-hand side, you see the top cell is a vitamin D deficient before infection and after infection down below. And you can see the bronchiole is almost closed completely, meaning you can't get air. And that's one of the things that people who have severe attacks of a viral on their lungs is they can't breathe because they're not getting oxygen, because it damages that bronchiole so badly it closes up. Okay, so you see the middle two slides. That's before infection on the top and after infection if the person was vitamin D sufficient. That means they had that 50 nanomoles per liter, right, of blood. So you see there's still a lot of inflammation. You see that big purple ring around there? It's a lot of inflammation. That's because the virus is attacking the bronchiole, but the bronchiole's holding up. It's keeping that airway open. Now you see the far right-hand side, vitamin D supplemental. That means above sufficient. That means above just getting what you need, but having a good amount of vitamin D3 by supplementing. Look at that bronchiole and then look at it below. Almost no inflammation. That bronchiole is hardened and fast and built up more material to strengthen it and is wide open, wide open. And it's because the D3 itself actually activates our immune system. Once you get D3 in the system, it boosts a specific immunoglobulin called cathelicidin. I encourage you to check out my video on D3 and cathelicidin. It is incredible. Once you see the direct connection between vitamin D3 upregulating cathelicidin, that cathelicidin then goes and attacks the virus, destroys the virus by 6 different mechanisms. It can stop it from multiplying. It can prevent it from damaging. It can break down its outer material and can destroy it all completely. It has multiple pathways of destroying the virus. And then that butyrate from fiber actually comes along and reduces that inflammation. You got that innate immune system going in there, attacking the virus, boosted by vitamin D3. Now, this is so well established in the literature. I want you to see this. I'm going to put this up on the screen because it's so important. It's not just me talking about this. This is the real deal. Okay. In an open letter, and this is a direct quote, in an open letter being sent to world governments, 120, there's a lot more have signed on to it by the time I'm sharing this with you, but over 120 health, science, and medical experts from the UK, the US, Europe say there is clear scientific evidence that vitamin D reduces COVID-19 infections, hospitalizations, and deaths, end quote. So what are they recommending? So in the letter, I'll put this up here too as well. In the letter, scientists are calling for immediate widespread increased vitamin D intake to 4,000 international units per day. And that is exactly what I put in here, 4,000 international units, so that you can get exactly what the top researchers and medical doctors are saying you should take to protect yourself from viral infections and to optimize, give yourself above sufficient levels so that your immune system is strong, your hormone health is strong, your muscle health, your brain health, all these things that are affected directly or indirectly by vitamin D3. Remember, vitamin D3 upregulates your immune system, but vitamin D3 itself can help destroy viruses. So that's something that is borne out in the research. You can just search it yourself. It's there in the studies if you want to read it. You don't need to take my word for it. Okay, so let's jump down into more of the research. So this is pretty astounding that just simply taking a vitamin D3, getting it up to more than sufficient amounts, could reduce your risk of all-cause mortality by 36%. Cancer, cardiovascular disease, respiratory disease. I just showed you the bronchioles on this. This is what the power of something so simple as vitamin D3 can do for you. And this is backed up by tons of research. There are literally hundreds of studies now on D3 showing how they affect the immune and overall health in the human body. Okay, some people will say, hey, vitamin D3, I've heard you should be taking vitamin K2 together. Well, it's not necessary to do that. And let me talk a little bit about vitamin K2, because I think there's a big misunderstanding that vitamin D3 and vitamin K2 have to go together, and they don't. It is necessary for us to get vitamin K, and especially vitamin K1 and K2. But let's talk about where vitamin K2 comes from. So vitamin K2 is not produced by animals. And that's a big myth. A lot of people think, oh, you can only get vitamin K2 from animals. That's not true at all. Vitamin K2 is produced by the bacteria that live in our gut. Having a healthy microbiome provides generally all the vitamin K2 we need if we're supplying it with enough vitamin K1. So 90% of vitamin K1 comes from dark greens in the food we eat. Most modern Americans get almost all of their vitamin K from plants. And it's because vitamin K1 is really high in plants. As a matter of fact, just one scoop of our clean green protein, which is made from plants, right? One scoop gives you 11 times the amount of vitamin K that the human body needs to produce sufficient amounts of vitamin K2. All right, but let's look at the research. Okay, so does vitamin K2, is it enough being produced in the gut? That's a two-part question. So I'm going to post up this study on vitamin K2 to answer that question pretty simply. All right, this may be a lot. Let's see if it fits on there. It does. Okay. So this is a June 21 study. Vitamin K2 holds promise for Alzheimer's prevention and treatment. So this is an interesting study looking at vitamin K2 and Alzheimer's. Okay, so this quote, and I'm going to read it directly for you. Reinforcing the findings above, one study suggests that the amount of vitamin K2 synthesized by the gut, the human gut, our microbiome, far exceeds nutritional requirements, even if only a fraction of that is produced in our gut is absorbed. So vitamin K1 is so prevalent in dark greens, so prevalent that we're producing more even vitamin K2 that we need, so much so that our gut doesn't even bother absorbing it all. And we can take that vitamin K2 and store it in our guts, in our livers, rather. So this goes on, and you can read it right on the screen, the next quote. Another argument of the intestinal absorption of vitamin K2 is that the human liver contains large amounts of vitamin K2, which are not present in significant amounts in the diet. So you're saying that you're just taking vitamin K1, but there's a whole storage, bountiful amount in the liver. Well, how did it get there? Well, of course, by converting vitamin K1 to K2. And this is seen both in vegans. Okay, so why do some people have K2 issues? Now, this is a more important question. And this study really spells it out why. Okay, so the next study I'm putting up on the screen, the microbial metagenome. So this is all the genes that are available in all the microbes that are living in our gut, and bone tissue composition in mice with microbiome reductions in strength. One thing I want to point out first off, I am vegan. I don't think it's necessary for animal testing. This is an animal study, but I do show it because it's one that's out there and it shows such an amazing thing. No, humans are not animals, but this is exactly the same as human beings because they use these mice with the human microbes in them from humans. So basically same. All right, so what did this study say? So if you go to the last sentence here, the vitamin content of the cecum, liver, and kidneys, primarily microbe-derived forms of vitamin K, was decreased by up to 66%. Okay, so this study illustrates that using antibiotics can wipe out the bacteria that chew up vitamin K1 and turn it into vitamin K2. So if you use an antibiotic, it goes in and kills the good probiotics, right? Antibiotics are indiscriminatory mostly. They kill bad bacteria, but they also kill good bacteria. When you kill the good bacteria that convert that vitamin K1 into vitamin K2, then your body can't produce it. So what they found in that is that when they took those mice and they fed them the antibiotics, their vitamin K2 levels dropped by 66%. not because they weren't converting, but because they were converting with a healthy microbiome. Once you destroyed that microbiome, you destroyed their ability to convert that vitamin K1 into vitamin K2. This is really clear evidence that this is where vitamin K2 is produced. All right, so you can take a vitamin K2 supplement if you want, especially if you've had a recent bout of antibiotics. I would actually strongly suggest taking vitamin K2. If you do not or have not recently taken vitamin K antibiotics, you probably don't need to worry about this, but you can get your vitamin K2 levels tested. If you've had a series of uh, of antibiotic rounds, you may be at real risk for not having much vitamin K2 conversion at all, and a supplementation might be necessary. Talk to your doctor about that. All right. So getting back to this, if you have a healthy microbiome and you're eating lots of greens, you're probably producing way more vitamin K2 than your body even needs. Vitamin K2 is important for bone strength, but it's also important for clearing out calcium out of our arteries because our arteries can calcify. Actually, calcification of plaquing of our arteries is one of the main contributors to actual cardiovascular disease deaths and coronary heart disease deaths. So this is something you want to pay close attention to. Get your vitamin K2 levels measured. You should be fine if you're eating lots of dark greens and you have a healthy microbiome. If you do not, it's supplementation. But almost all of the vitamin K2 supplements, how are they made? They're made by taking this bacteria that lives in our gut and putting it onto soy. So that soy then converts, if this vitamin K2 content in the soy then gets converted to vitamin K2. Guess what happens when we eat soy or dark greens? Is that vitamin K1 gets converted by our bacteria into vitamin K2. So this is where humans and other people get their vitamin K2. Now, this is why it's so important to get sufficient amounts of vitamin D3, making sure you're getting sufficient amounts of vitamin D3, especially if you're carrying body weight, especially if you're in a northern climate, and especially if you have darker skin. Also, if you're not getting direct sunlight, 30 minutes of direct sunlight every single day over at least 3/4 of your body, you may not be getting sufficient amounts of vitamin D3. D3 supplementation may be required to get you into those levels. So don't put yourself at risk for issues. Definitely get that looked at and eat your greens, exercise, and make sure you're D3 sufficient for great heart health, bone health, muscle health, and immune health, and help reduce your risk for all-cause mortality. I hope you. I'm going to look at some of the questions here. I have some plant-based clients all have been taking 69 who stopped taking vitamin D3 because of this. Vitamin D3 supplementation, I have never seen any research. If you have any research that shows vitamin D3 supplementation could be harmful, let me know. I've never seen any of that. Every study I've ever written said there was no harm in that whatsoever. So I have not seen that. If you have any research, definitely send it my way. See if there's any other questions. Thank you, Jerry, for tuning in. You get a good amount of sun in the summer months. If you get tested during the summer months, remember to also get tested during the winter months. Because your vitamin D levels can drop, just like I showed here in the brand. This is flu. Most people getting the flu in the winter months because their vitamin D3 levels drop. You can get measured in the summer when you're getting lots of sun and you could be a 30, 40, 50 and range and be fine. And then during the winter months, because there is less exposure. Even remember, in the winter, even if you're getting direct sunlight, you may not be getting vitamin D3 activation because of the curvature of the earth. So this is the earth, this is the sun. Let's say this is the sun here, and this is the earth. When you shift the earth, you see the shadow change on my hands because the shadow is covering more of the things. So if you're living, let's see, if you're living here and then the earth shifts, now you're not getting that sunlight, you're not getting that exposure. That's basically how it works. A little oversimplification, but as the earth tilts and we get into winter months, even if you're getting direct sunlight, that sunlight UV may be reflecting off the earth's atmosphere, reducing your body's ability to use that sun to convert or bioactivate vitamin D3. So keep that in mind, that during the winter months, your levels can drop. And that's when we are much more susceptible. That's why so many more people get immune challenges during the winter months, is because that drop in vitamin D3. There you have it, the correlation. I share this information and these studies as they come up, especially if there could have potential to seriously affect people's lives. I want you to be healthy. I care about you. I suffered through clinical depression for many years of my life. Once I broke free of that suffering, I'm so grateful. I committed the rest of my life to helping people not suffer with disease states, not suffer with challenges that can be overcome by simple nutritional interventions. And those nutritional interventions can be getting more access to sunlight, can be your food, and it can be supplementation. But if you can't get it from direct sunlight because you're working indoors all day long, if you can't get it from the food you're eating because you're vegan or because of some other reason, then please, please don't deny yourself the benefit of a long and healthy life just because you have a maybe an opposition to supplementation. Please just consider that for your health. I don't want to see you suffer. Oh, and speaking of which, we're trying to make an example. We are bringing back the World Vegan Bodybuilding Championship, the first and only vegan, 100% natural, drug-free tested vegan bodybuilding stage. That means every single bodybuilder you will see on stage for this competition will be drug-free and vegan. Please encourage you to share this so we get this information out to more people. Let's not let people suffer. Let's help the people that we love with good nutritional information. There's a lot to sort through out there. And it's like Angela was saying, she heard some things that I've never heard of before. But I'm always open to new information. And if I'm wrong, I'll admit it because I want the best for you. I'm not about being right or wrong. I'm about helping people. That's what I want to do. That's my gift to you. That's why I do these Facebook Lives every Thursday, to try to get the best information that I can find about health, fitness, and vitality and share them with you so you can make decisions for your life and your health and your family and those you care about, to make the best decisions so they can live a life without as much disease states as possible, with proper health, nutrition, and fitness. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for listening. Share if you can. Give it a like, give it a comment or two. That helps with the algorithms. It helps it get seen by more people. I really appreciate and thankful for all of you who do so. Tune in every week, every Thursday, with the exception of occasional times where I've got emergencies come up. But every Thursday, I'll be sharing the latest nutritional research on health, fitness, and nutrition, and why a plant-based diet is the best diet for humans.